Welcome back to Post-Industrial Talk. I'm your host, Carmen Gentile. We have a great guest with us today. It's videographer and photographer Nick Childers. Nick is checking in with us from Ukraine on the front line. He has keen insights you don't want to miss. But first, I want to tell you about a news story at postindustrial.com about the West Virginia culinary scene and all the delights that are to be found there. Now, on to Nick. Hey, man. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Carmen. Thanks for talking with me.
I'm not going to ask you to reveal your exact locale because that would endanger you and the folks you're with, but where are you roughly?
We are in Donetsk Oblast. It's where like the heart of the front line is. Relatively kind of near, between like Chasiv Yar, Avdiivka, but this is like, it's a big front line. So yeah.
What's it like there right now?
Yeah, it's spicy. Yeah, so the situation now compared to 2 years ago, I mean, Russia's on the offensive, and that's almost completely because of the lack of, really the slow progress with the American aid package. And as a result, the Russians have taken advantage of that and have pushed through, and they've captured Avdiivka, and they captured a number of other small towns, and they're pushing through now. And a lot of people are worried because, they're making a lot of gains at a pace a lot faster than a lot of people thought. So,
well, now that this Russian aid package this Ukrainian aid package has gone through from the U.S., are soldiers that you're with, are they talking about it? What do they think about it? Are they excited?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that this aid package does is really boost morale for the troops. I don't know if people are following the news, but, Ukraine lowered their conscription age to 25, and it was controversial because, I think a lot of Ukrainians now feel very desperate and hopeless because of the advantages that Russians have been making, and also because of 2 years of war. Many people, if not all Ukrainians, know somebody that has been killed. And now I know people that have been killed, I have filmed. So it's hitting a lot closer to home. Funerals, many funerals. And 2 years from now, if this war continues, a lot more people that I know and the people that in Ukraine and people even in the US, Ukrainians that they know who are on the front lines will probably die. So
it's horrific. It's amazing how resilient these folks are, considering this has been going on for 2+ years now. And the U.S. has been lagging in its support over the last few months, and yet they still keep fighting. You're right now, what it looks like, is it a home? Is that where you are?
Yes, it's a home. Yeah, right now we're at a home. Can't say where, of course, but there are a lot of people that left these villages, and so Ukrainian soldiers will set up shop in a lot of these houses, and a lot of them are abandoned, so they just move in. And I think today we just got hot water for the first time. We haven't had a shower in about 4 days, maybe longer, and that'll be nice. So yeah, we're here in a house, and a lot of the leftovers, like posters, books from whoever lived here before. It's strange living in people's houses. You don't know if they're alive or dead or where they went. So
I had a similar experience. The last time I was in Iraq, we were staying in a house that with a group of Iraqi special forces, and a group of us bunked in this bedroom that belonged to a small girl that had posters on the walls. It had love letters to a boy that she liked, and it was heartbreaking to see this. And I remember when we were staying in that place, we were very careful to make the bed every day, not to disrupt her things, hoping that someday these people could come back. But like you said, you don't know if these folks that fled are alive or dead or are fighting or where they are. So it's haunting to be in somebody else's house like that. What's the morale like among the troops right now that you're with?
Well, right now the morale among troops in Ukraine, it's lowered a bit for sure. I mean, if you talk to people in Kiev or other cities, I'd say, of course, it's lower. I mean, people in cities, they're functioning, especially Kiev. Of course, they have missile strikes still, and especially Kharkiv, which is being hit very hard now. Um, but when you're with a group of soldiers, you live with them. They're your family. I mean, I'm here. I've spent lots of time with these guys, and we boost each other's morale. And when you're with these guys, I mean, they support each other. We support each other, and especially when an American comes to film them, they say, "Oh, NATO's here finally." So they're the morale is good right now. So.
Right.
But yeah, right now I'm embedded with a special attachment unit. It's a drone unit. They mostly work at night, and they work with specialized drones, striking Russian positions as much as they can. So, and I'm here to film that.
And have they had much success?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the unit I'm with, it's pretty specialized. They don't really work per se under the traditional Army units like infantry. They have their own kind of special attachments, and they kind of work with whoever they want to. And yeah, they're like strategic, and they have a variety of drones: big drones, small drones, drones that fly like planes, kind of the quadcopter plane or quadcopter drones. And some say it's even more effective than artillery. And because of the lack of proper ammunition, proper tools that they haven't received yet, they make their own drones, 3D print them, and the ammunition that they use anti-tank mines on infantry. These are like old Soviet, like 30-year-old mines that they have in their stockpiles, and they use it and they drop it on soldiers. They're meant for tanks. So, wow. And they're effective. So
they seem really ingenious, and a lot of ingenuity comes out of war. I've seen some pretty ingenious devices made from scraps of whatever people can find around them for either weapons of war or for household items, for their everyday use. So there's a lot of brainstorming when it comes to, fighting for your life, I've found. What strikes me as interesting is that, right now it seems calm, all is calm there. And we've had we've seen a lot of kinetic activity from the front, but what people fail to understand, I think, in war, and you could probably speak to this really well now, is that there's an old saying: war is long bouts of boredom punctuated by short periods of brief terror. Has that been your experience covering this war, or is it constant? What's the pace of the fighting like?
Yeah, well, I mean, it also depends on which front line you're at and what your job is. Of course, guys in the zero position, these kind of trench storming guys, that's constant. It's every day. It's hardcore. And I've been there a couple times on the zero position, and it's hardcore. But they're used to it, constant shelling. But yeah, I mean, you're right. And I think, war is punctuated by, it's like, I'd say 90% waiting, 10% action. Of course that can change, but that's the math usually. And yeah, I mean, it's like a, hurry up and wait. And, you wait, you plan, you go check it out. And then, you strike a position, and that's, let's say 1 year can change your life. 1 minute can change your life. 5 minutes can change your life. It's really, they say, "Oh, how long have you been at the front line?" I don't really think that matters. It matters just like, it really just takes a few seconds.
Well, that's just it. People talk about, well, if you're relatively safe in Kyiv or you're relatively safe in another place that's not on the front line is everywhere in Ukraine, because there's bombing going on in Kharkiv. There's bombing going on in Kyiv and throughout the country. I mean, people have been killed and injured far from the so-called front line. So, danger is everywhere in a place like Ukraine in a war like this one. But right at the front line, how far apart are the opposing sides? Can you, at the front, can you see Russian forces?
For sure, yeah. I mean, especially in the drone squad, you see them all the time. You can zoom in, but yeah, I mean, right now, as opposed to 2 years ago, and in certain places, the front line can be extremely dynamic. Just the other day, I was talking with guys. It's like one day they say, "Oh, Russians are about 3 kilometers, which is about 1.8 miles." The next day, they show up 1 kilometer. Right now the Russians are in their offensive, and it really kind of depends on what day it is, and they kind of come and go. And at night, there are even stories of Russian soldiers dressing up as Ukrainians and coming into Ukrainian positions, and it's a very dynamic front. And it's certainly a war of attrition, but like World War I, but with drones and with scary new technology. So,
how do you see this war ending?
Not well. I mean, just to kind of touch on the aid package that passed, 64 billion, around there. Before that, it was 44 billion. Since 2022, since the war started, we've given them almost $100 billion, just the US, and the EU has given about that much. But, a lot of people say, oh, that's a lot of money. That's too much, 100 billion since 2022. That's 0.32% of our GDP. That's like 2 pennies out of our taxes. And I know a lot of Americans are tired of war, rightfully so. Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, you name it. We've been involved with a lot of terrible wars, and they didn't end well, and we feel ashamed for it. And but now, I mean, that 44 billion of 2022 and the 64 billion that just passed, that's a small price to pay for boots on the ground. That's a small price to pay. That's American people coming here, dying, causing a much bigger war that could go nuclear. So, I think the way this war will end is a war of attrition, really outspending Russia, which has 100 billion for their military. For just their military spending, it was 70 billion in 2022. We're like triple, quadruple that more combined with all of our NATO allies. So, it is a game of waiting, but the question is, how much time are we willing to wait, and who wins the election in the US and the presidential election in the US in 2024. So I think that really hinges on a lot of things that we're waiting on. So,
Nick, you make some good points. I appreciate you taking the time, and stay safe. Keep your head down. Keep it on a swivel. And we hope to see you back here soon. Okay.
Thanks. Will do. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Thanks. I want to thank Nick Childers for joining us on Post-Industrial Talk. And I want to thank you for watching. Learn more about what we do at postindustrial.com. Keep coming back here, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.